Before we start, Cillian, let me congratulate you to the election as president
Thank you.
of the Civil Society Organizations Group of the European Economic and Social Committee. So how did you prepare for this role? And how does it feel to be back in Brussels and to take up this role now?
The preparation was the summer, I guess, thinking about it. And before the summer break, of course, when I knew I was taking on the role, I had some meetings with the staff and the administration here in Brussels to try and understand exactly what my areas of responsibility would be. There was a lot to do to prepare for this new mandate. So while my preparation involved understanding fully what the role is and talking to colleagues who've been here for a long time, more experienced colleagues, and talking to the former president, my predecessor Seamus as well. There was that side of the preparation, but then for me, more importantly, I spent the summer at home and summer amongst my community and my friends, listening to music, going for walks, being by the sea. So this was my most important part of my preparation, I think, to clear the mind before coming back to Brussels.
Maybe you want to explain us as well, why did you actually offer yourself for this position?
Well, I've been working in the NGO sector now for more than a decade. And so I was involved at a national level with the Irish Environmental Network. And once I came to Brussels in 2015, I started to understand how the committee works. And I was really excited to see the opportunities that are there for civil society to engage in decision-making processes. I was really impressed to see the level of engagement that we got from the European Commission, from the European Parliament, and even with opinions or reports that I'd worked on, being able to go to the Council working groups. I spent 10 years as a member here in different roles, learning how the committee works and learning what we could do. Maybe also observing things where I thought if I could have more influence, I would do them differently. And so I felt a certain obligation when this opportunity came up to put myself forward as a candidate at least, and let the group decide if they wanted me to be the president or not. And I was really honoured and excited that they chose me to do the role.
How do you actually plan to make all these different voices of civil society heard at EU level?
So yeah, how do we get civil society voices from the communities and the networks that we represent into legislation and into the conversations around policy and shaping the future of the EU? I think maybe now more than ever it's really important that we find ways of doing that. And I would say we can focus on a number of different things. One is to be really strategic in how we approach it, to look at what are the important items that are on the agenda for the big legislative bodies, the political bodies, and see how can we contribute to those conversations. So that's a very strategic approach. Secondly, we can ensure that all of the networks and the communities that our members represent, that we keep them informed. I mean, that's part of why we're talking today. That's part of the communication that we put out as a group, as the Civil Society Organizations Group. We want the people who are reading this information or watching these interviews to see that we exist, first of all, that we're active and that we're engaged, and we want them to know that we're their home here. If you're a civil society organisation, or if you're an individual working with the civil society organisation or volunteering, we're here to help you reach the decision makers in the EU. So we really need to stimulate that group of people and make them understand that we're here for them. And then thirdly, there's our members, the members who are appointed to the EESC and who've come into our group. We want to make sure that they know of all the tools that are available for them, so they know how to be effective in their role as members. And as a group, we're here to support them in that. We can take the best practices, the things that we've done already that have worked and had an impact, and we have plenty to choose from there, even whether it's circular economy work that we've done at the EESC, or whether it's our work on engaging youth, for example. We can take those successes and see which elements of those made them work, and then we can apply that to the new things we want to do.
What are the topics on which the group will focus during your term of office?
Well, we'll work on our priorities as a collective. So I've been elected as president, but one of the reasons I think my colleagues elected me was because I want to work collaboratively. And then the political priorities, of course, are set outside of this building and outside of us. We know that there's a huge political focus on competitiveness, and we know there's a huge political focus on defence, and that's the reality of the political conversation. And they're maybe not typically areas for civil society organisations to be working on. So I think we need to look at what can we make a difference in from the perspective of our group. And rather than talking about defence, I prefer to look at what we can do about peace and how we can contribute to peace. And that's connected to building resilient communities and building the resilience in whatever sector it is, whether it's energy or food production, whether it's for our consumers, whatever the area of work is, also to have a resilient ecosystems and environment. So building resilience with a view to a peaceful future, and doing all of that in the context of being members of the EU, I think is a critical focus for our group. And one of the lenses that we can use to view all of these things through is the principle of sustainable development, because we've already got a commitment to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We've had the European Commission voluntarily give a review of how the EU is doing towards achieving that, and they deliver that review at the UN in New York 2 years ago. And in that they came to us, they came to the EESC and they said, you give us an input into the civil society perspective of achieving these things. So I'd like to try and put all of those different elements together and use them as a kind of framework for how we can focus on making a difference.
I know you are also active back in Ireland. You're working for your own NGO back there. So what motivates you to work here in Brussels in addition to that?
Yeah, my family ask me that question all the time. I don't know if they're disappointed that I spend so much time in Brussels or whether they're excited to see me leave almost every week. And it's not easy living in Ireland, the part of Ireland I live in, West Cork, to get here because we don't have a direct connection. And the motivation really is the resources that are here and the accessibility to decision makers that we have here. So having the privileged opportunity to be here as a member and now to take a leadership role within the committee, that's what motivates me really, that I've seen how we can actually make a difference. And I firmly believe that the strength of the EU lies at a community level. I know we have our very important multilateral structures, and international cooperation I think is essential, but it only works if we're reaching down into our communities at a community level. And I want to see an EU that feels like it works when you're back down in your community. So it's an advantage for me that I go home every week and that I spend my time there and that I'm working there and that I'm engaging with people who are not particularly interested in how the EU works, they're not particularly interested in governance structures, and to take what I hear from them and the feedback from them and to be able to apply it here, that's what motivates me. And the other thing I would say is that within our group of civil society organisations, I don't find another space within the EU architecture where civil society organisations have this standing where we're able to represent viewpoints and able to have an impact with our work. So that unique space that we have, the privilege to be able to be part of it and seeing some things being successful, that's what keeps motivating me. And as long as that's happening, I'll keep coming back.
Thank you for your time
Thank
and
you.
the insights.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the work ahead.